Hi, I'm Janet, and the guy over there behind the camera, that is Ray. This is the Janet Ray podcast with an edition of What's It Really Like? We like to bring you stories from individuals who've just lived amazing lives, who've just done lots of amazing things to kind of let you see inside of what they go through, their thought process, just all their things that they do with What's It Really Like. So today we thought it was really important to touch base with veterans because of some events that have occurred in Afghanistan. So today's edition of What's It Really Like is training Afghan soldiers. What's it really like? And I have today, this is my friend Sal, my good buddy Sal. That's what I'll call him. No. This is my good buddy Sal. So, which I think you have an amazing story, lots to share for other people. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of other veterans that are having very similar thoughts to what you're having this week. It's been a big week for those who served in Afghanistan. So, Sal, kind of take us, where does your story start?
Thanks, Janet. So it was early in December. My cousin and his best friend were joining the military. At that point, I wasn't joining. I was living my life in New York, getting into trouble.
And how old were you?
I was 17 years old.
Okay.
So one day I just got tired. I was working at my uncle's pizzeria. Came home and I'm like, I need something better. I got to do something. So I called my cousin and I was like, hey, are you still joining? He's like, yeah. He's like, next week we're going up to, it was Albany, New York. Uh-huh. And I was like, all right, let me know. I'm coming up there with you. I went to my mom and she didn't believe me. And I was like, I'm going to do this.
She's like, oh, Sal.
Yeah, she's like, there's no way. No, you're a mama's boy. You're not going to do it. So we ended up going up there and I went through it and I had to wait another week and a half. So I was not in the same class as my cousin and his best friend. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing it. I remember calling my mom from MEPS, military enlisted processing center.
Okay.
And letting her know, hey, I leave in May.
And what did she say?
She just started sobbing.
Oh, no.
My sister had to grab the phone and she's like, what's going on? I was like, well, I'm leaving, 2 weeks from my 18th birthday. She's like, okay, so just come home and then we'll talk about it. And from there, I went into Texas, did my training in Texas for 6 weeks, and the rest is pretty much history.
Wow. Did your mom ever quite forgive you for joining the military?
Yeah, she did. I mean, it was the best thing, the best thing that I've done for my life. My parents know that. My whole family, they look at it and like, that's the best thing you could have done for your future and, my family now.
Is that a decision you still would have made today?
Yes.
It is.
100%.
Yes. Okay. What if your son now, because you do have a son, you have a daughter, you're married, if he came to you and said, Dad, I'm joining the military?
I'd ask him I'd want to hear why he'd want to join the military. Mm-hmm. If it's for just he wants to get out of town, then I'd have him rethink it. Let him see the bigger picture. When you're signing up for the military, you're signing up for something big. You are in the military, you're representing the branch of service you're in, you represent the USA. Is that the route you want to go? Or do you rather go to school? Do you 4 years, get a degree? And then if you decide that, later down the line, I still want to go in, then go ahead, go in. I'm all for it. Okay. But I don't want my children to shoot themselves in the foot, sell themselves short of what there's to offer. Because everybody has a different road in life they take. I just want them to know everything that's available for them.
Yeah, okay. So what was your service like? Did you go overseas a lot? What was your main?
So I was born and raised in Queens, New York. Mm-hmm. Texas was probably the second time I left New York ever. So after basic training, I went to technical school, did 6 weeks there, also in San Antonio. Ended up getting orders to Okinawa, Japan.
Okay.
So like the first time out of the country on my own. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And how old were you when you went to Japan?
I was 18.
It's a big world.
Yes. Living on my own, living in a dorm, knowing nobody. It was a big shock to me, culture. Mm-hmm. The whole culture was different. So I did, I met some really good friends, friends that I'm still friends with today. We speak occasionally. They always check on me to see how I'm doing. I check on them. We meet up in Las Vegas every few years.
Oh, you do?
So it's pretty cool. I mean, you make friendships that become family. And there's some bonds that are never broken. So went to Okinawa, Japan for 2 years. I got lucky. I got a follow on to Hawaii.
Oh, well, that's not bad. Right. You're like, oh, this is
beautiful.
Hawaii. Oh,
I was lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was lucky. The Air Force was treating me good.
Yeah.
Then after Hawaii, I went to Arkansas.
You talk about a disappointment,
Yes.
right? You're like
I was
my
at the
life
highs.
is Hawaii. Like, that's the best ever.
Yes. So we lived on the beach every day. So I did 5 years out there. Ended up getting orders I got engaged to my wife. And then within that year, I got orders to Arkansas. We got married shortly after I got there to Arkansas. And then 2 weeks after we got married, I got orders to Kuwait.
Oh, wow. Now, did she go with you to
No.
Kuwait? No.
No, Kuwait was unaccompanied.
Oh, well, I guess that's not a place you would take. Yeah.
It was unaccompanied at the time. So I did 4 months out there. Then I came back to Arkansas. And then I got hit again to deploy 6-7 months later. I went to Iraq Balad. I did 4 months out there, came home, and maybe 9 months after that, I went back to Iraq Balad.
Wow.
With the C-130 aircraft at Little Rock, Arkansas.
How hard is that on a marriage, especially a young marriage, being young people as well?
Very hard. So to me at the time, I was already used to being on my own and coming and going. Being newly married and leaving, I was lucky enough to have friends who were there for my wife.
Okay.
I had three female friends, and still friends today. They had her by her side, and they were with her every time. They would give me updates. We're doing this Halloween. We're going to a Halloween party. So I felt good knowing that she wasn't alone, even though for her it was like she came there for me, and then I left.
Yeah. So she's left her family, she's left her
Exactly.
friends, and then now you're not there.
Correct. It was rough. At certain times, it was like I was just like, okay, I'm here. What do you want me to do? But she's like, I really miss you. This is rough for me. It's not something that I'm used to. But I guess I got accustomed to knowing how she felt and understanding it. Finally, it took a while. Because this is what I do. This is the military. I was going to do this. But I finally understood, her point of view, which helped a lot because I was more empathetic. I'd be more understanding. It came and went. The Iraq one, I think, was a little harder because that's probably the first time I ever thought I was going to die.
Yes.
I think the first week after I got there, we got mortared probably 8 times in a row.
And what exactly does that mean?
So when you hear it's like a loud siren, and then you hear like a female voice on the recording. It says incoming, 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 and all of a sudden you hear bombs just going off on your base. And we're in a metal trailer with like another roommate, and all you hear is everything shaking and rattling. What we're supposed to do is roll on the floor and roll under your bed. Got to a point where I'm like, my mattress is not going to save me from something blowing up. So I just got used to it. I would just lay there, and I'm like, you know what? If it's meant for me, for my time, then it's going to happen. There's nothing I could do to stop it.
Do you think other people got and grew to be the same way, those around you?
Totally.
It's a normal part of life at that point?
It became the new norm every time we deployed. When we'd be out and about, you're supposed to take cover. Everybody in the beginning they would just run. And it came to a point when you're like, okay, another incoming. Let's take cover. So you'd hustle over, but from the first time it happened to 4 or 5 months later, it's totally different. It's more like it's expected. What happens, it's going to happen. Just take cover.
That's a hard way to live your life.
Oh, definitely. It takes a big toll on you because you're at a point where you should be concerned about dying, and you're just. I guess you get so numb to it that it's
because it's an everyday occurrence.
Oh, yeah.
Is that why you're just numb to it?
It depends. It depends on like the season. The season in Iraq's, there's some season where it would be maybe every day, or maybe do it once, twice a week, or if they find out like we open a new gym on the base, somehow they would figure out where the gym's located at coordinates wise, and then they'd end up getting close to the gym because they know a lot of people are going to be out there. Yeah, because we had a lot of local nationals that would work on base. So every time something like that happened, we would expect, okay, something's going to happen.
You would just kind of
Yeah.
know and be prepared for
Yeah.
it at that point.
Yeah.
It was no longer a surprise,
No.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So in September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center, we all know what happened, September 11th. And then that is when pretty much the start of the war in Afghanistan. We were going in to take the Taliban out of control. When did you go to Afghanistan?
So I went in January of 2012.
Okay.
I decided that I was going to volunteer for a year in Afghanistan in 2011, probably November.
What made you make that decision?
I wanted to do my part. I was hearing about, all my colleagues and all my friends, they were going overseas and they were on the advisor mission. So what the advisor mission, we would go, they would pair us up with someone in my career field, which is logistics. I was advising the Afghan commander for logistics on how to, help them run their program better, how to warehouse stuff better, how to order stuff, how to keep accountability, inventory. So you're paired with another Afghan member because our mission was to help them get to a point where they can sustain themselves.
That that you probably thought would
Correct.
happen.
Yes.
So when you were there, what was it like training and running those missions and being a part of that?
So in the beginning, it felt like it was going to get nowhere. Language barrier. Luckily, we had some really good Afghan interpreters. A lot of us became friends. We stayed friends, and we still communicate on Facebook. A lot of our interpreters actually have been lucky enough to get visas and move to the U.S. So that was part of the program they had. If their interpreter was on board with the mission, they helped us out. They had no problems. We would help them get visas back to the U.S. So they come to the U.S., get their working visas. They'll be here for a few years, and then eventually they could apply for their citizenship.
Oh, okay.
So there are Afghans out there, which I ended up finding out. There are Afghans out there who want to make a change, who want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the line. My friend, his name was Farmars. He said the only way Afghan will change their mentality is if the U.S. bombs Afghanistan and gets rid of all the old culture.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, is a lot what all cultures struggle with and change.
Yeah. And it's something you don't think about because, living here in the United States, we don't know. A lot of people don't know what they go through on a daily basis.
Like what? What are some of the things you would say that they were dealing with?
So, like our interpreters, they would pretty much have to hide themselves from coming to work on base. Because if Taliban would see you coming to the front door of the base and waiting online to get in, you'd be a target. They would follow you home. They would go after your family.
So you're trying to bring about change.
Correct.
And every day you're wondering if, this person's putting their life on the line to bring change.
Yeah. It takes a lot of guts for them to do what they were doing because they knew the end result wasn't going to be great if they got caught. They were a big part of the mission. Because there's no way I can communicate with the Afghan major that I was assigned to. So everything, we had to trust them because we didn't know if they were saying what we were saying. Like in training, before you go to Afghanistan, you get training. And you have a week-long course in their language, but they don't get into technical terms. So you have to trust him to be safe, and they'll trust you to keep them safe.
And that's a lot of trust.
Definitely. You're paired with somebody you have no clue who they are. That's why a lot of times we'd go to the Afghan camp, we'd come back, they come with us. So they would stay with us on our side of the camp because it was safer. We had security. So we would sit and we'd socialize with them. We'd get to know them, know about their family. There were times where I would get my interpreter's gifts. I mean, they don't celebrate Christmas and whatnot, but I would still give it to them because I know they had children. I mean, and it let them see that we are really here to make a difference. They have said, the last two people that came here, they just came here to do whatever, and they didn't really do anything. They would say, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you, but they don't hold on to their promise. And I let them know, I was like, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm here for a reason, away from my family, with strangers. It's like, I have to make it worth the while, or else I should have just stayed home with my family.
You believed in their mission.
Yeah, totally.
As much as they believed in their mission.
Yeah,
and that is one of the ways that showing that trust was the way that you conveyed that message.
Yeah. I mean, and if you don't have that trust, then your mission there it's not worth anything.
You think that's probably true of every single soldier who's on a mission, is that trust of who they're with is their lifesaver?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, because if you don't have trust, then you're not going to have each other's backs.
What kind of training did you have to actually do with them?
So with the Afghans, or before I went?
Yeah.
With the Afghans, so I would make up little modules of how to assign a warehouse location for an item, help them set up, how their warehouse should look, and, how to be accurate, how to be precise, how they should track everything they'll issue to somebody. So if they give something to somebody, make sure if it's due back to the warehouse, make sure you do a hand receipt. I helped them get their skill level, because he was a major and he didn't have a skill level. Like in the Air Force, it's 3, 5, 7, 9 skill level. 9 is the highest skill level you can go. Luckily, the major I was with, he knew his stuff. I knew he wanted to make a change.
Yeah.
But there was times that he would tell me, this is not going to work.
Were there ever times that you thought, this isn't going to work?
Yes. So there was a time where they were supposed to get in 12 computers. I mean, having a computer in Afghan is a big thing. So they only had received 4 computers. The major I was advising, he just sent everything back. And I was like, you should have told me. I would have told you, sign for the amount you have. Yeah. And send the paperwork back so it shows this is all you received. And he was trying to tell me, it's corrupt. Their wing base is not sending what they're supposed to get. They're holding them. They're hiding them. I mean, that was above my thought process. I had no clue. My concern was helping them do what they're supposed to do for their jobs. Yeah. So that there was hurdles. They knew more of the hurdles than I did. They slowly, as they gained trust in me, they would let me know things. Which it helped, because I knew, okay, what limit can I push this to? If I'm gonna push something to a point where I know it's not gonna get anywhere, I'm not gonna worry about doing it, because it's gonna just waste our time.
Yeah. So what in that training process? I mean, if you were there a year, or were you there longer?
A year.
You were there a year. When it was kind of coming up to your time to leave, then what were you thinking?
So at that point, I was like, okay, I was excited to go home, see my wife, see my children, my friends. I found out I was going to get moved to Italy shortly after I got back. So, I was excited. At the same time, I was a little sad, because the 6 people I was with, there was only 6 Air Force people there. The rest was the Spanish military and the Italian Air Force. Okay. I made friends. Actually met my cousin that's in the Italian Air Force when I was in the Italian Air Force.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just nuts.
That's where you go, man. It's a big world, but it's a small world.
In the middle of Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly.
It was sad, because I made good friends. We had each other. I would sometimes help out security forces do their training. I would help out the gunners do their training with the Afghan soldiers. That was probably the first time I've ever felt uncomfortable on an aircraft with an Afghan pilot.
Oh yeah, why was that?
Because I'm like, okay, we're doing this. what's saying, he's not just gonna just take the plane down.
Yeah. Like,
I was like,
I'm trusting
Yes.
you, but
Yes.
I don't know you.
No, exactly, and that took some time. What else? Experienced stuff I've never experienced. I've shot a M249 off of a helicopter into a mountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
A lot of power in there.
Yeah, I see sheep everywhere just running.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was nice. You made really good friends. We were there for a whole year, so we had each other. Some good talks we had with each other. There were times where somebody would go through something and you were all they had, so you were there for them. And that's how you keep that bond with people. So getting close to that day, I was like, okay, this is gonna happen. Let's keep in touch. Luckily, Facebook, social media helped out a lot. We still keep in touch. So it's like we left, but we're still together.
When you came back, what parts of that experience did you bring back with you? What parts of that still stay with you today?
So I ended up coming back and being diagnosed with PTSD. So that was a big thing that I brought back from. I'm pretty sure it was a culmination of, going to Iraq twice and then going to Afghanistan for a year. I brought back the camaraderie, making sure that everybody understands that, you're not just an NCO, a soldier, an airman. You're a person first. Be good to everybody because it's only going to get you ahead. Don't hold grudges. Because you never know if tomorrow or today is, your last day. And just be kind to people, and just work hard because everything you do is for a reason.
Do you think a lot of people come back from deployment with that same feeling, with that, where you've lived your life essentially, like you said, explosions are normal. You become numb to it. How hard is that then to come back to a family who wasn't there and doesn't know those challenges?
It's rough. You have to reacclimate yourself to the new normal, which is what was normal to you before you had your new normal in Afghanistan. So loud noises, that still to this day is something I deal with. Like where at my son's baseball games, the dugout roofs are metal. So if I don't see a ball going and it's going to hit the top of the roof, I jump. Once it hits it, I jump. Loud noises, 4th of July, that was rough in the beginning. I'd actually have to see fireworks to know, okay, it's just a firework. I'm not in Afghanistan. I'm not in harm's way. It just takes getting used to, and then you find your groove, and then you're like, okay, this is life now. This is my life.
Does a part of you still feel lonely on that?
Lonely, I felt lonely and alone, like I was the only one going through it because I wouldn't talk about it. Going through therapy and counseling, being able to open up and tell people about it, helps a lot. My wife, she didn't know anything. She just knew I got diagnosed with PTSD and I was going to see a counselor. To me, it's like, it's internal. It's my issue. Like, it shouldn't be no one else's burden. Like, I wanted to do it on my own, but it's impossible.
I think that is a really, really strong point that you make that I don't think people quite understand who are dealing with PTSD is you feel like it's your battle and you can't battle it alone. And I think people are afraid to open up to those individuals who they think don't understand, but what they don't understand when somebody loves you and you open up in the right way and it's a supportive environment, it makes them understand you. Yeah. And it makes them tolerant of and accepting of things that you may go through. Like you were saying, when a ball hits that tin roof, if somebody that loves you does not know what you're going through, and now all of a sudden you've shut down, you're irritable, you're uncomfortable. then it makes them upset. Like, well,
What
what's
I
your
did.
problem? You know?
I'm like, hey, did I do something to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to be that way, and then it's a hard place to be,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's just way too many military people who come back and have a hard time in that adjustment process.
A lot. I know there's a few people, when I first got diagnosed back in 2013, there were people that were going through it, and I myself knew the symptoms, what they were going through, the signs, and I would talk to them. A lot of them were like, I don't want to talk to nobody, it's nothing. And it got to a point where I'm like, look, I'll go with you. Like, let's go talk to somebody because you have PTSD. You may not want to say, okay, I have PTSD. I was like, it's not being weak. It's being strong, knowing your symptoms, know what's going on, knowing it's not normal for you to be acting the way you're acting, and going to get help. I mean, because that's what it's there for.
Yeah. And, I like to say that your brain is designed to keep you alive. It's absolute number one function. And I think people, when they are struggling with those intrusive thoughts, with those memories, with shutting down, with the rapid heart rate and stuff like that, they think they're not normal. And there's nothing further from the truth. Your brain's doing exactly what it's taught to do, keep you alive. It remembers bad things. It's just getting that under control. And that's one reason why I think it's so important to tell your story today, is because of the amount of people that are really suffering from the turn of events in Afghanistan. And I want to kind of talk about that now because, what was it, August 15th, 2021, as U.S. troops start leaving Afghanistan, the thing that you fought, the thing that so many soldiers fought, that people lost their lives. People came home from deployment and lost their lives because of things that they witnessed and they saw in Afghanistan. And now it's like we weren't there. It's back to square one
Like it never
after
happened.
20 years. What were your thoughts when you see how quickly that happened?
Anger. I remember I'm working from home right now, and watching the news, reading all these posts, CNN. It just made me really upset to see everything that we, and I mean me, Marines, Air Force, Navy, everybody, everything we've worked for is just like we were never there. All the missions that we've done and put 100% into to help another country that we have no clue who they are, help them to get on their feet and stay on their feet, just crumble. Like, they didn't even give it a fighting chance. It was upsetting. It took me a few days to absorb it all, to sit and think about it. I mean, because you always have to look at the big picture. What I went there for, what my brothers and sisters went there for, we went there to do a mission, and we left knowing our mission was done. What happens now, it's nothing that's under our control. It's not anything that we didn't do during our mission.
I think that's very important to bring up. You were successful in that mission that
Correct.
you went to do.
Correct.
When you left, you had done what you were sent there to do.
Yeah, and it took me at least 3-4 days to understand that, I went there, I served with honor, I did my mission, and I made it back home. I mean, there are some people that didn't make it back home, and I mean that's another tough thing, knowing all the people we've lost during the mission. But we also know at the same time it's something that we have to understand that can happen to us, being in the military, being in a foreign land that's at war. But it's never right, but it's something that we know there's a possibility of happening. And I think that thought also keeps you going every day, knowing, okay, I need to get everything I need to get done today because it could be my last. So I make sure if I go out today, I'm going to go out knowing that I went out fighting. I did what I was supposed to be doing.
Is it frustrating to you to see those Afghan soldiers? Did you expect there would be more of a fight?
So my theory is, if it was up to the Afghan soldier, I think they would fight more. I believe their leadership, the Afghan president, they didn't put forth the effort to say, okay, I need my people, my ANA military to stand up for Afghanistan. But I believe Afghan soldiers would have fought for their country, given the time or given the opportunity to. Because when I was helping the security forces advisors, there were some Afghan security forces guys they were all about their country. They wanted to learn everything. They wanted to learn combat skills. They wanted to learn tactics. I mean, they were all for it. They knew their job was to protect Afghanistan. There were people where it's like, okay, you're a little suspect. I have to watch my back because of you. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not just Afghanistan. It's everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But I think if they put forth the effort, they had the means to try to protect Afghanistan from Taliban.
Do you think, had they had that support, do you think they would have been successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Because the Taliban probably didn't expect anybody to say, okay, ANA military, protect us. Mm-hmm. And it goes with anything in politics. There's corruption everywhere. Mm-hmm. I've saw a lot of it being out there, and it helped me understand, okay, this is Afghanistan. This is not the U.S. I mean, I'm not saying there's not corruption in the U.S. Mm-hmm. There's corruption in every country. But being able to see it firsthand and, understanding what they're talking about when they're telling me, okay, this is not going to work for us. We could try to get something done, and it's not going to happen because of this person or this person.
Yeah.
So it helps you understand them better, but it's still a struggle.
I think it's also important to realize that a lot of times we put ourselves and what we would do in somebody else's situation. And it's really easy for members of our military to look at that situation and go, I would have fought. Mm-hmm. Because you would have fought. But you have to realize that they're not dealing with the same life situations that you had. They're dealing with, with the bare necessities not being met. Right. And that sways the way that you respond to things.
Yeah, it's true.
I hate for military members to think they were not successful because it did not play out like it would have played out in their mind.
Right. And what I want to say to all my brothers and sisters who have been through this, it's okay to be upset because it's something that you work towards. Take a couple days, let it sink in and understand that you were successful at your mission. You completed your mission 100%. You made it back home. You did what you're supposed to do. The way it turns out is the way it's turned out. There's nothing that we could have done as just an individual that would have changed the outcome out. We trained them as well as we could. It was the outcome's not what we expected at all, but it's something that we have to look at, and we can't blame ourselves.
No.
We can't at all. I mean, they have their own mentalities. It's a totally different world.
It is a different world. You are completely right, and things unfold differently.
Yeah.
In different worlds, they do, and I think that's a struggle, especially because we kind of feel like it might have played out differently here.
Oh, here in the U.S. definitely, but it's like I said, totally different world, totally different outcome. You gotta remember. I mean, they've been accustomed to this war type thing for over how many years? So to them, it's an everyday life. Seeing Taliban walking down the street is nothing for them. It's just like us going down in like a bad neighborhood and just seeing a drug dealer walk by. Mm-hmm. To them, it's normal. It's life to them.
When you were over there, you said the sound of bombs and the sound of, of things going on and the uncertainty, that was your normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
And that's what they're living with.
Yeah, and that's every day to them. That's just like hearing a seagull at the beach to them.
Mm-hmm.
Bombs is just gunfire. It's normal to them.
It is, yeah. Is there, what would you say to somebody that is struggling at this point? Because, there have been so many stories of, the increased number of people calling, veteran suicide hotlines and people that are struggling, all because of these events that have unfolded just this last week.
So I first off want to say, you have to stay strong. You have to know who your support system is. Use your support system. If it's a counselor at the VA, use the VA. That's what they're there for. That's what they get paid for. I have my friends. I've got you. I've got my wife. I got my sister, Ray. I've got a bunch of people that I know I can turn to, but only because I've been able to talk about it. And you're not going to have that solid support system if you don't let someone know what's going on. So talking about it helps.
I want to focus on that for a second because it does help. And I feel like when you have a trauma-related story and you hide that within yourself, that it hides in this dark part of you, and you stop seeing it as a story of what you survived, and it starts becoming a secret. And I think when people have secrets, that they grow, and they honestly, I feel like secrets will eat you alive.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They will. And as soon as you find somebody that you can trust, that loves you, or you find a counselor, you find somebody, the minute you let that secret out and you open your mouth and you start telling your story, it brings light into what you're feeling. And you, all of a sudden, do you agree? There's something very freeing about finally telling your story.
It felt empowering after a few times. The first time I was nervous. I was like, people are going to think I'm a freak. They're going to think something's wrong with me because a loud noise, gets to me. But being able to tell somebody and then seeing somebody look at you and be like, I understand. Now I understand, because I was happy-go-lucky. I was always joking around. I was a clown doing pranks. I came back and I was just totally different. And luckily I was able to see it myself. But it changes you as a person. If you keep it inside, that darkness takes over. It makes you somebody totally different, where you're not going to see it because that's just,
you can't.
It's the same for you. Your loved ones, your friends, they all see it. And they might not want to talk to you about it because they're worried about, what's they going to do if I approach them and say, hey, what's going on? What's wrong with you? You're going to say, there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
What do you mean what's wrong with me?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
No. And being able to look at someone that cares about you and listen to them and take in what they're telling you because they see it. Going through PTSD, you're not going to see it. You're not going to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So
I always say it's because you're in that dark valley of that mountain.
Yeah.
And you can't see it. You can't see it. But the minute that you find that trust in somebody, the minute you start telling that story and it starts opening up and there's light.
Yeah.
And it starts lifting
it's
off of you.
It's relief.
It is.
It's almost like instant relief because it's like, okay, I'm not talking to myself in my head anymore.
Yeah.
I'm able to tell somebody about it and I'm okay.
And it allows you, I think, to work out that story.
Yeah.
It allows you to verbally piece together what you keep trying to piece together inside of you. And you just can't do it by yourself.
No. I thought in the beginning, and I was like, there's no way. And I was like, I'm not the same anymore. And then finally, when I had talked to my wife about it, I was like, I think there's something wrong with me. She's like, I think so also. She was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like,
There's nothing wrong. What do you mean?
Like, we're living
nothing
in
wrong.
Italy.
Yeah.
We're living in Italy, having a good time. I was like, what? She's like, no. She's like, you get upset a lot. I did have a short fuse. Came back with a short fuse. And then finally I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go talk to somebody. I was like,
Was
what's
that
worst
the
that can
hardest
happen?
part?
I think so.
Acknowledging that you weren't you?
I wasn't in control. That's probably the biggest hurdle I've ever had to try to overcome or deal with.
And I think that's very important for people who are really struggling to deal with what's going on in Afghanistan is you're not in control.
No, you're not. I mean, the mind is a powerful thing, and if you let it get away, it's gonna do whatever it wants. Coming to terms with something's wrong is probably the biggest thing you can do, and probably the best thing you could do for yourself. And know that you're never alone, ever. There's always someone there.
How many times have you told your story to somebody and then they immediately say, I have similar
Plenty.
thing.
Plenty.
We're alike. We struggle in the same way.
Plenty. I mean, and that's why I don't mind anymore talking about it, because it might reach somebody and say, okay, he's able to sit and talk about it. Why can't I do that? And hopefully it gives them a little bit of that push to say, okay, let me talk to somebody. I mean, because that's all it takes. All it takes is open up to somebody and leave those channels opened.
Do you have friends that you feel like missed that mark, missed their opportunity, that didn't speak to someone?
Yes. And they were always with the mentality of, I'm good. It's nothing for me. I've lost one or two friends from that. I mean, in the beginning, I was like, maybe I could do something. Maybe I could have done something. There's nothing you could do. I mean, you can't force them to go to counseling or go speak to somebody. They have to come to it on their own terms. It's rough because, I mean, you're losing people that you genuinely love. Generally, you've created a bond with, but it's what it is. All I could do is just try to talk to them and try to help them understand, I know what you're going through. I've been there. I'm still dealing with it. I'm never going to be over it. And I'm okay with it because I know that I'm able to talk about it. And people around me know about it. So they understand if I act a certain way or I freak out.
They know.
That's just Sal. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I could joke about it now.
There's Sal. No. Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, there was no way.
Well, I think it's because when you open it up and you're real with people and they love you for every bit of you.
Yeah.
Every bit of you.
Yeah. I mean, it lets you, it's another addition to your life. It's a new part of your life that you're allowing other people to see also. It's no longer you keeping it inside and trying to hide. Okay, I'm scared. There's nothing going on, but I'm scared. But letting them know about it, they'll see it and they'll understand and they'll be there for you.
Well, I hope that anybody who is listening to this podcast, who's watching this podcast, really takes that to heart, because I know a lot of people are struggling, and we get in a struggling situation with ourselves when what we thought would happen doesn't happen.
Right.
And it just doesn't piece together.
No.
And we feel like the sacrifice that you made, the sacrifice your friends made, the sacrifice your family made, the sacrifices weren't worth it. But you have to realize that you went there and you did your mission, and you came home. And that is an important part of this.
Definitely.
It was not for nothing. It was not a failure.
No.
And I think a lot of people kind of feel like they failed, and I don't want them to feel that way.
No. If I would say anything about failure, the failure comes from people that are in suits. It's not from us who did our jobs. It's the people that are way above us who are making the calls. But
Calls that you have no control over.
We have no control over.
You have no control over.
You have to look deep down inside and tell yourself, I did what I was supposed to do. I mean, it's not our jobs to say, live every day to check back and be like, hey, how are you doing today? Are you falling apart or are you carrying on with your life? You can't do that. Our mission is a part of our life that makes you the person you are today. You experience something that probably 99% of the population is never going to experience. And know that you did what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And try to remember those moments that brought joy and brought hope. And, you know, and I really honestly feel like that you brought hope to people. And that's an important part of that mission.
Yeah, definitely. Remember those wins. Remember those wins because...
Remember those sheep running from that hill.
Yeah, you have to look at everything. It wasn't our job to make sure today it wasn't going to fall apart. Our job was what we did then, and we left it where it was at, and that's it. I mean, the big thing is make sure you talk to somebody. Talking is the biggest thing. I mean, want to get better, and you're gonna have to want to get better as you talk. I went to the counselor at first, and I was like, you know, this is crazy. Like, they're gonna think I'm crazy.
And then they're like, you're not.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, did you hear what I just told you? And they're like, yeah, not crazy. Still, I'm not seeing it. And you're like well, who else comes to this place, right? Well, I do, in really all seriousness, I do want to put out there the veteranscrisisline.net is a great place to go for resources. 1-800-273-8255, and you can press 1 to talk to somebody. And I think it's very important to know you can call and ask for help, even if you feel like you just need to share your story.
Oh, totally.
It's not about, well, I'm not at that moment that I'm thinking about taking my own life. I'm in this dark place. That's not where I'm at, so I can't call that number, or something bad's going to happen if I call that number or anything like that. You know what? You can reach out to these people and say, I need to tell my story. Yeah. I need to verbalize it. So then I can go tell somebody else. I can tell a counselor, but it's so scary to me and it's so dark and I feel like you're going to judge me. I just need somewhere safe to tell this story. Yeah. And I think that is just so incredibly important. You can also text 838255. You can talk to somebody in that. There are so many resources, and I know just from what I've seen, and I mean, you know firsthand how many people are struggling with just the events that have happened. And I want to make sure that people know that they're not alone and how they're feeling. And they have every right to feel that way.
Correct. It's a normal feeling.
It is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, Sal, as we wrap this up, I'd like to wrap it up with one word. So, training soldiers in Afghanistan and then seeing it fall apart the way it did, what's it really like?
What's it really like? It's like your whole world just comes crashing down.
And now you have to pick up the pieces.
Yep. But you know what? It was worth it. It was worth it. I changed someone's life for that time being. It was worth it.
You know what? Since you brought that up real quick, I know we're wrapping this up, but I saw this and I just wanted you to know. So between 2001 and 2021, Afghanistan experienced improvements in health, education, women's rights. Life expectancy has increased from 56 years old to 64 years old. 89% of residents living in cities now have access to clean water. That was up from 16% when we first went over there in 2001. Literacy rate has risen from 8% to 43%.
All they needed is someone to care and want to help them. That's all they needed.
And they got that. I mean, where it goes from here, we'll just have to see. But I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you for letting me tell my
and for
story.
your sacrifice.
Thank you very much.
And for your dear wife, Carmen.
She puts up with a lot.
The next podcast, we're getting Carmen. What's it really like being a military spouse? Okay.
She's got stories.
I know she does. Well, we thank you, Sal, for being a part of it today.